Hi everybody, so I'm Robbie Coey, and this is Leela. We're from Holomoon, and we're here today to talk about using agile development practices for the planning and development of our game, Guitar Zeros.
For anyone who might not be aware, agile is actually a philosophy from software. It focuses on being adaptive and iterative with your development, so doing tight cycles and reviewing your work to spot problem areas before they become bigger issues for your team. We're not going to explain to you how to use agile, go into more detail, and we're not even saying that it might be the right solution for you. We just want to share what our experience has been using it on Guitar Zeros.
So first of all, a little bit of background, I guess, about Guitar Zeros and Holomoon. So we've just finished NI Spring's platform program. For those of you that aren't aware, platform is a funding scheme run by NI Spring where the goal is to make and release a game within the space of a year. Part of that scheme is a rapid prototyping phase where we made 4 prototypes of games. From that came the concept of Guitar Zeros. At this stage, it was just a band simulator game where you're having to navigate the trials and tribulations of life on tour. You're making decisions that influence how well the tour goes and how long the tour lasts. Early sort of feedback on the idea was quite positive. People quite enjoyed the art style, people quite enjoyed the writing, the narrative, and the humor, and the world building of it all. So with that, we were quite keen to get going.
Yeah, so we got stuck into planning out our roadmap, having our milestones, and we set on doing 2-week sprints that at the end we could have a build that we could review and try and adopt those agile principles.
Yeah, so this was the first sort of prototype for Guitar Zeros. This, what you can see on the screen, was the original prototype for sort of gig gameplay within the game. Which, yeah, it's not the most pleasant, I guess, to look at. There's a lot of like hidden stats going on here. There's a lot of clicking, and essentially what we had made was RSI game. It was quite unpleasant to play. So from that, we did a retro and found.
That was my pause there. I was like, oh yes, retros. So as part of our agile approach, we did our 2-week sprints, but we also made sure to do regular retros, retrospectives. So as a team, we would gather, we would have a meeting where we explicitly looked at the project and acknowledged what was going well, but more importantly, what was not going well. So using a virtual whiteboard as well, we were able to capture everyone's thoughts and feelings to review together as a team, so it wasn't a case of one person talking over everybody else. By doing that, we did recognize that the main mechanic didn't necessarily complement the concept that we were getting such positive feedback on. So using retros, we went on a lovely journey of figuring out what would suit us best.
Which then led us to the next sort of gameplay prototype that we did. And I'm not sure if anyone here has heard of the very tiny game Vampire Survivors. That was quite big last year and has been nominated for approximately 100 BAFTAs. Yeah, we were quite influenced by that at this stage, so we made this sort of top-down brawling mechanic. And because it's not immediately obvious what's happening here, your sort of idea was that you're trying to fight your way through a band crowd. Feel a bit on the conceptual side, although the gameplay was fun enough, but we ultimately decided that this gameplay wasn't appealing to the same people that the story and the narrative and the art was appealing to.
So looking at our audience, we decided to research the market and find games that matched in our style and aesthetic and similar kind of humor. We did a couple different things, including Monster Prom, and developed our next version.
Yeah, so this next version of the prototype took a real smorgasbord of different influences. Monster Prom being one of them, tabletop role-playing games, and then just general strategy sort of survival games. So this was very heavily based on like stat manipulation. There was a lot of stats in this game that made no sense to anybody, not even us. There were a lot of resources in this game that didn't really make a lot of sense either. And again, through retros and playtesting, both internally and externally, we found that ultimately this wasn't the direction that we wanted to take the game in.
So in our next retro, rather than looking at what potentially be fun, looking at the audience in the market, the team reflected on the games they they themselves play. So we stripped away the concept and the idea we loved so much and just focused on making something that was fun for us.
So we made a card game, which we thoroughly enjoyed internally within Holomoon. So pulling from influences like Slay Spire, Hearthstone, Reigns is another big one as well, especially for us now. Yeah, and the other good thing about making a card game was that this was super easy to paper prototype. So what we did essentially was strip out all the stuff that we had positive feedback on. We stripped out all the art, we stripped out all the narrative, and we focused solely on gameplay. And from that focus, we were able to find something that we as a company enjoyed making, which then turned into Guitar Heroes, which you can see here. Yeah, so once we kind of made that call to make it a card game, everything else started to slot into place. It was real like a moment of like clicking for us. A lot of stuff that we had trouble conceptualizing early on in the project all of a sudden made a lot more sense whenever it was in the scope of a card game. And it just felt natural for us as a development team to make this.
As a team, we were also able to figure out the types of games that we want to make in the future. So we very quickly made this version, and we stuck with our original milestone map, and we even got a free demo of this up on Steam in time for Next Fest. So the demo is free, and we would love it if you wanted to play and give us our feedback, give us your feedback, because we do want to make this the best that it can be. So our main takeaways.
Yeah. What's the first one?
Know your game.
Yeah, know your game. So know your game off at a granular level, I think, is probably the better way of phrasing that. So at every stage of this, we were getting quite positive feedback on aspects of the game, and it was quite easy to confuse that with just positive feedback off the game as a whole. So it wasn't until we started stripping back those aspects and taking out things that we knew were working that we were able to focus on the problem areas and then make decisions to try and combat that. Kind of going hand in hand with that then was rapid prototyping. So getting a game loop together as quickly as possible and getting people to play it. It's very hard to test a game that doesn't exist or that isn't playable. So most of the decisions that we were making here were informed by getting something together, getting something playable, and then either us playing it internally or showing it to sort of friends and family, I suppose, at the time.
Making paper prototypes out of card, using dice and Skittles as resources that very quickly got ed up. Was just really, really useful for us as a team. The other major takeaway was definitely during those retrospectives, cannot stress that enough if you're working on a project, do get your whole team together and be critical of the work that you're doing. Create a space that allows all of your team members to voice their concerns. Everyone has different interpretations and different visions for what you're doing, and you could oversee something that become a real problem down the line.
Yeah, and the other thing I guess is making sure that you're changing things or being available to pivot, not getting too bogged down in any one idea. Ultimately, like the expression "kill your darlings," like try to really look at each aspect of your game and decide for yourself whether it's working. And make that decision early if something isn't working. That's the main thing. It's very easy on indie budgets and indie timescales to feel like you can't change or you can't update, but it'll save you a lot more time and a lot more effort further down the line if you cut something that isn't working early.
So don't be afraid to evolve. We're able to use a lot of our previous work and just keep going till we find something that everyone was genuinely excited about. So that is all we have to say on our experience, but